5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
To scratch and major itch. So enjoy your fruity pebbles, you yabba dabba bitch.
They've killed him! I'm CM Punk, and I am the voice of the voiceless.
Be the man. You gotta beat the man.
Woo, woo, woo. You know it.
I got okey doke by little
Live
Jimmy.
from the Pro Wrestling Report studios in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, this is Monday Night Meltdown with your hosts, Damian Nelson and David Hero.
I'm proud to say we're doing things the Vince McMahon way.
That's the bottom line. What? Cause Stone Cold said so.
Bringing you all the latest news and views from professional wrestling. Monday Night Meltdown is on the air.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Monday Night Meltdown. We're live here on Monday, September 10th, 2012 on Blog Talk Radio. I'm going to be joined here in a moment by Matthew Thomas. But breaking news coming into the broadcast here. If you have not heard, if you were not watching WWE RAW Tonight, a scary situation developing on Raw where the commentator, the Hall of Famer, the legend, Jerry the King Lawler, collapses live at ringside during the broadcast in the middle of a matchup, collapses at the announce table, and this happened around 9 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, again on the live broadcast of WWE Raw. There was obviously some commotion, some confusion while this was going on as silence took over the air on WWE Raw. Well, Jerry Lawler would be removed from ringside by a stretcher. He would be treated initially backstage in Montreal there, before he would be transported to a local hospital. And the initial reports that were going out and that we even got were that things looked very bleak for Jerry Lawler. As a matter of fact, one report from inside the arena was that Jerry Lawler was not responding initially to the treatment being provided to him by the medical personnel there in the Bell Center. Well, we did get a few updates over the course of the night from Michael Cole via WWE, and those reports became more encouraging as the night went on. First, telling us that Jerry Lawler is indeed responsive and is indeed breathing on his own. While oxygen was being administered, he was breathing on his own. We would then get another update indicating that Jerry Lawler was back and his heart was beating, if you will, and that he was also, again, breathing on his own. But a CAT scan is scheduled to do a scan of the body, his head and his chest specifically, to find out what may have happened. And for those of you who were watching Raw closely tonight, you probably were able to follow what was going on and wonder along with all of us what was going on. But you may or may not have heard the little bit of audio that you got just before Jerry Lawler collapsed, and then the glimpse that we got of it on air of Jerry Lawler at ringside, literally sitting on the floor with his head almost in the lap of Michael Cole. As a result of this very, very unfortunate situation, commentary would be suspended on this broadcast tonight, meaning they went silent after the matchup where this occurred out of respect for Jerry the King Lawler. Now, it should be no secret as well that Jerry Lawler did indeed wrestle in a matchup earlier on, teaming up with Randy Orton against CM Punk and Dolph Ziggler. It should also be noted that this is in no way, shape, or form a work. This is not a part of a wrestling story. This is not an angle. This is not a planned event. This is not part of the CM Punk Jerry Lawler story. This is real, folks. This really happened, and it happened on live television where you can't put a veil over it. This is a serious situation, and Jerry Lawler, while seemingly better, not out of the woods yet. And we are continuously compiling reports on what Jerry Lawler's most recent condition is. And, you know, you always got to ask a few questions when things like this happen, and many of you have been asking those questions as well tonight on our Twitter feed, at PWR Show on Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter. Pretty much everything that happened on Raw tonight, including a very solid ending between CM Punk and John Cena, is irrelevant to this serious situation that developed with Jerry the King Lawler. Jerry the King Lawler, 62 years old, has been wrestling for about 42 of those years. He still wrestles regularly, wrestles on the independent circuit, still very heavily known in Memphis, Tennessee. And most would say that in addition to his time in WWE, one of the most popular stars in wrestling because of the situation between him and the late, great Andy Kaufman of several years ago. To recap, Jerry the King Lawler collapsed during the live broadcast of WWE RAW Tonight in what was not a part of the story, what was not a part of the prescribed events for the evening. Jerry Lawler currently being treated in a hospital in Montreal where he is responsive, where he is breathing on his own, and where his heart is beating. There were initial reports that Jerry had suffered a heart attack. There are still reports coming in that this is likely to still remain a serious situation over the course of the evening. We will get more updates, and David Hero is actually going to be joining us here in a moment. He's been working his connections to find out what might have happened and try to get some insight from what was going on in the arena. What we do know is that things were chaotic, to say the least, as this very, very major situation occurred on live television, which required a lot of rewriting, if you will, and a lot of planning of the live broadcast WWE Raw. David, shortly after this happened, you and I spoke on the phone to try to put some pieces together and figure out what was going on. You began trying to reach out to some of your contacts. A very scary situation from a man who you know very well and a man who I've had the pleasure to meet many a time as well, Jerry the King Lawler, tonight on Raw. Not fun to watch and very, very uncomfortable to those 30 minutes really between the incident and our first update from Michael Cole was just absolutely gut-wrenching.
You know, it was really odd. I mean, earlier today I was actually talking with Grandmaster Sexy, Brian Lawler, Jerry's son, about, working on some stuff for Blizzard Brawl coming up. And Brian had mentioned to me that his dad was in Aruba over the weekend with Kevin Nash's wrestling group and was, obviously flying to Montreal today. And, who knows what all happened, what caused it. I mean, just imagine, thank God he didn't collapse in the ring during that impromptu tag team match. I mean, it could have been far worse. And, when you and I were talking, I said, hey, this isn't going to end well. I mean, see, they don't do CPR that long, for as long as he was in the back, and I thought maybe they were just trying to, stall for time until the end of the show. It was very, very touch and go. From some of the things that I heard, that he wasn't responding in the back in the CPR, and so forth. I mean, I was watching Raw with, senior intern Cal tonight, and Cal's like, what is that noise? And I didn't pick up on it at first, and it was Jerry, trying, to breathe and was having a hard time breathing. And also the next thing you know, if you were watching the show, you saw that Jerry had slumped over onto the table, and everybody in the arena was staring at Jerry the King Lawler with their cameras, and Kane was staring and watching. And, the wrestling world dodged a bullet. I'm not saying he's out of the woods yet, but I think there's a very good chance that he is. Would have been very interesting as to how they would have gone on with the show. I mean, they've done it in the past, but Jerry the King Lawler is a different kind of superstar from an Owen Hart and an Eddie Guerrero. Things have changed. There's now a publicly traded company. There's different things that they have to do. So just watching the show, how it transpired, how there was no commentary, just really, really weird. But, thank God so far Jerry the King is doing better and responsive and breathing on his own and going in and getting the help that he needs.
I got to say this, David, and great summary there, but I got to say this. Before or when we got that first update from Michael Cole, he was visibly shaken, and you can't help but think back to 1999 when both Jerry Lawler and Jim Ross had to tell the wrestling world watching live on television about that tragedy that had occurred with Owen Hart. It was so eerily similar, and I felt, while Michael Cole was giving that update, I felt that we as wrestling fans were about to get similar news. And I think, as you said, at that time, let's be real here, things appeared much more grim than they are turning out to be at the end of the night, as many of these situations do when they first develop. And one thing that goes without saying, and let's not forget, this man is truly a professional. He came from CBS News. Most people don't know that. He covered the first war in Iraq. But Michael Cole did a tremendous job tonight under what had to be the most terrible of circumstances to maintain his composure for as long as he did within the matchup in which this occurred, and then throughout the course of the evening, out of respect for Jerry Lawler, no commentary being given. You know, regardless of what happens on TV, folks, great friends, Jerry Lawler and Michael Cole, and Michael Cole showed what a professional he is tonight and showed pure compassion and real compassion for what was happening to Jerry Lawler. I mean, it was almost like, I don't want to use an analogy here or a comparison, but I mean, his best friend collapsed right next to him, and he didn't know what was going on with him because he was still doing his job at ringside. That's just an amazing thing, and to put yourself in his shoes, he deserves a ton of credit for that tonight. You know, Matthew, Thomas, I got to ask this question. David, go ahead.
I can't imagine what was going through Michael Cole's mind. I mean, you know what? Yeah, they hate each other on TV. They had their WrestleMania matches. They rip on each other nonstop. But when you spend that much time with somebody, you know, at least the last 15 years or so on the road together, up and down those roads, it's family. And Michael Cole saw, you know, like you said, his best friend / his brother convulsions laying on the ground and watching EMTs stretcher him out, not knowing what's going on. And you can't just stop the game. You need to, you know, you got to take into consideration there's 15,000 other people there. You have to try to, you know, maintain your composure. And I can't imagine what was going through Cole's mind. I mean, you know what? We make fun of him. We rip on him, the whole thing. He was a stud tonight, and he really pulled it together and came through, and he was definitely a team leader for Monday Night Raw.
No, Matthew Thomas, who's joining us as well. There have been some questions about whether or not the show should have continued, and some people, albeit a very small portion of the audience, questioning that. Your opinion after sitting at home and watching this all play out of WWE's handling of this, what had to be just a terrible situation?
I think they did a tremendous job. I mean, precedent has shown in the past that in most all circumstances, you keep plugging along. And to echo what you guys just said, I mean, thought Michael Cole was stellar. How he was able to keep his composure as well as he did and delivering the updates, I have no idea. I mean, it was absolutely heart-wrenching to watch him come in and, you know, give the updates on Lawler. The lack of commentary was very eerie. I think it was probably the most eerie Raw I can recall watching in a long time. You have to go back to other instances where there's been some sort of tragedy to get anything that comes close. But I think that lack of commentary and just the whole uncertainty that was in the air tonight, it was really a tough Raw to get through. And, you know, hats off to Michael Cole and also the talent too, because the talent, you know, having to go out there and perform, which is basically the go-home show prior to a pay-per-view with this terrible situation with Lawler happening. I mean, hats off to everybody for going out there and being able to finish the program off.
Thank you, Matthew. Very well-made points there. And going back to you, David Hero, as a promoter, as a man who puts on professional wrestling shows, we heard a couple of comments from a lot of wrestlers out there, including Shane Helms, a friend of this broadcast, who said, you know, hey, when one of us gets hurt or when something happens to one of us, we want the show to go on. And tonight, WWE had the show go on. They don't have a choice, really, when it comes to these matters. But what goes through your head if an unfortunate situation were to occur on a live show, a live wrestling show? What goes through the promoter's head, David Hero, as to what's the next step? Because you've got a live audience in the arena. You've got potentially a live audience watching on television. You've got several questions that need to be answered and a lot of quick decisions to make. What's the thought process as a promoter going through that?
Well, the first thing I think of is what's going on. You know, what can I control? How can I make things better? You just try to get the people involved in the best possible scenario. And then you got to think, okay, I have 500, 1,000, 10,000, 15,000 people out in a building that could cause panic. And now with the way social media is, and you know, with the tweeting and texting and Facebooking and touting, it's hard to contain what's ever going on. I mean, look at how quickly the news traveled tonight through social media. So you definitely have to take into consideration all the people. I mean, you just gotta hope for the best, and whatever decision you make has got to be the best decision for the main person involved. And with that being Jerry Lawler, they took care of business. Thank God they have their EMTs at ringside, and they had jumped on it right away. Imagine if they had to try to find somebody in the back, and they would have lost precious time. I think that may have been what will have saved Jerry Lawler's life. But, you know, thank God I've never been in that situation. I mean, I spoke with, you know, the guys back when Owen Hart fell to his death and how they handled that, and a lot of the guys wanted to end the show, and, you know, Vince and company said, no, the show has to go on. It's a coin flip because it's family. You know, it's someone that, you know, you love and respect. It's more than just, you know, one of the wrestlers or a pal. But honestly, I mean, it sounds like I'm talking in circles, which I might be, but there is no right or wrong thing. You just have to do what you think is the best and pray for the best and just go forward with it and just go through with it and go forward.
And thank you for that insight. But one thing that I'm sure once this all situates will be focused on is the attention to what Jerry did earlier in the night, which was participating in that tag team matchup. And look, things happen regardless of whether or not A and B or C happened before D happened. But I want to make one point crystal clear. Jerry Lawler is still an active wrestler. He still wrestles on a regular basis. Yes, he's 62 years old. Yes, he's been in the business for over 40 years. But there are a lot of those people out there, folks. And, you know, there's some people who are beginning to lay criticism on others and try to lay blame on why this situation may have occurred. You know, I don't think that this is the time or place for that, so we'll leave that at that. But just a very surreal night on WWE television, a very surreal night, and just so familiar, unfortunately, to 1999. And I'm glad that the outcome is, at least at this point, substantially different from that. But this happened on a night where Bret Hart returned to Montreal, Quebec, Canada for the very first time since the Montreal Screwjob back in 1997. A night when John Cena and CM Punk had a solid close of the show. A night when several things happened to advance into their big pay-per-view Night of Champions this Sunday. All of that unimportant, at least right now. We'll talk about all of that this Saturday night on primetime television. But for now, the story is about Jerry the King Lawler. And just to recap for you, just to reset, if you will, if you're just tuning in with us, Jerry the King Lawler collapsed during the live broadcast of Raw Tonight, somewhere around the 9 o'clock Central Standard Time hour. He was treated initially at ringside, carted out on a stretcher, not responsive at that point. Got backstage, received CPR and treatment from the medical personnel there in Toronto, or there in Montreal, rather, at the Bell Center. And initial reports were not strong, not good coming in for Jerry Lawler's condition. He was taken from the Bell Center, I believe it's called in Montreal, to Royal Victoria Hospital in Montreal, where he is still now in an isolated emergency room. He is currently responsive. He is breathing on his own, and he is still receiving oxygen. We do hear that a CT scan is pending, and we are going to stay on this story over the course of the next few days and bring you updates as they become available. The news much better now than it was 90 minutes ago, and especially much better than when it was, much better than it seemingly was when Michael Cole gave us that very first update on air. I want to take this moment now to go to the rest of the Pro Wrestling broadcast team, get their initial feedback and reaction to the situation that developed tonight on WWE Raw. We're going to start with the co-host of Thursday night, or Sudden Impact Radio on Thursday nights here on Blog Talk Radio, Dwayne Williams. Dwayne, Jerry Lawler, unfortunate situation tonight. What's your reaction?
Definitely shocking and surprising. Of course, like you said, not knowing what brought this on, and of course he is an active wrestler in every sense of the word. Initially, I was unsure as to whether this was part of the entertainment, as Cole was saying, but clearly we saw quickly that it was not. And Twitter was buzzing with talk and kind words for the King. So definitely, we all echo those sentiments.
And I thought it was important that Michael Cole made that point initially. And again, the eerie similarities to 1999, where I still remember some of Jim Ross's distinct words, this is not a wrestling angle. It's one of the things he said, Michael Cole saying this is not part of tonight's planned entertainment. It's difficult to make that detachment, if you will, while watching professional wrestling, but I think he did a good job in doing that as best he could. However, for some fans, it still didn't resonate, didn't register, but be that as it may, it did with the masses. Linda Kay, you were watching live as well on the USA Network. I know you've had the opportunity to meet Jerry Lawler in the past. Your thoughts on the situation with Mr. Lawler tonight?
It was just a very scary situation. You just knew something was wrong, and it's very shocking and, like you said, very eerily similar to the incident in '99. But hats off to Michael Cole. I mean, having no commentary the rest of the show out of respect for Jerry Lawler. I mean, real compassion. I mean, that's his best friend, his bro. So thank goodness the latest reports show Jerry Lawler is doing better. And, as everyone has been saying on Twitter tonight, hashtag pray for Lawler.
Thank you, Linda. And finally, the man they call Meathead. Meathead, your thoughts. I remember the show we did after Owen Hart's situation back in 1999, a solemn week. Again, this situation not that severe, at least based on the information we got at the end of WWE Raw, but the similarities can't be denied.
Yeah, I remember exactly. I don't know if Damien, if you were at Raw Minds with me or not. I don't remember if we watched it together or... I flash back to that, and I think of the show that we did, and I guess I can breathe a little bit now that I know that he's responding. And, I want to echo what everybody else said, too. Just kind of real proud of Michael Cole, and, I'm proud that, he handled everything the way he did, and I'm glad to see that Jerry's hopefully going to make it through, and I'm praying for him.
Well, thank you, Meathead. And David Hero, Matthew, I'm not sure there's much else we need to say here tonight on tonight's broadcast as we wait for word from or about Jerry Lawler and what his updated medical condition will be, which will happen over the course of this evening and tomorrow as well. I want to thank Arda Ocal, who is in Montreal of Aftermath Radio. I'm sure many of you are familiar with him, a friend of the show as well, provided us with some of the information that we were able to share with you tonight, and also WREG CBS 3, the CBS affiliate in Memphis, Tennessee, which also we got some assistance with coverage on. So I want to appreciate all of that. And, there's only one thing to think about, and that is Jerry the King Lawler. The hashtag on Twitter that is trending right now, pray for Jerry. And Jerry's not out of the woods yet. And as we get details here on the Pro Wrestling Report, we will continue to bring them to you via Twitter, at PWR Show on Twitter, and updates as well, of course, on this Saturday's Pro Wrestling Report primetime television. So, on a night where things got real bizarre, real fast, but hopefully getting much better as of this point for Jerry Lawler, we say so long here from the PWR studios for this week's edition of Monday Night Meltdown. We'll see you again on Saturday for primetime. Thank you so much, everyone.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report. Informative, entertaining, real.